Good morning, or good afternoon, or evening, whatever time it is there. Today, the Bible study is from 1 Samuel 3. If possible, I would encourage you to gather with someone or call someone to discuss this passage. I'm going to pause a few times to let you discuss it. I'll pause for a moment now if you want to stop this and have a prayer at the beginning here. There are two themes in the book of Samuel that we need to keep in mind. The first is that God exalts the humble and humbles the exalted. This showed up in Hannah's song, and it shows up in this chapter significantly. The second comes from the last sentence of Hannah's song. She says, "He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed." This is an interesting statement because it's anachronistic. There are no kings at the time when would say this. And secondly, the book of Samuel gives an unfavorable view of kings. Nevertheless, this summary fits the book very well. From 1 Samuel 3. Now the boy Samuel was ministering to the Lord in the presence of Eli, and the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There was no frequent vision. At that time, Eli, whose eyesight had begun to grow dim so that he could not see, was lying down in his own place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. The perspective of the author here is interesting. He says there are no frequent visions. I wonder if the author is writing from a time where there are frequent visions. He also says that the lamp of God had not yet gone out. I wonder what that lamp was. Was it the lamp that the priest kept burning? Or was it the glory of God that hovered over the ark? I believe chapters 4 that deals with the glory of God may have some relevance in this situation, so keep that in mind. The artistry of this passage is also interesting. The eyesight of Eli parallels the condition of God's revelation. Pause for a moment. What are your thoughts about the state of God's revelation at this point in Israel? From verse 4. Then the Lord called Samuel, and he said, "Here I am," and ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But he said, "I did not call. Lie down again." So he went and lay down. And the Lord called again, "Samuel." And Samuel rose and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But he said, "I did not call, my son. Lie down again." Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. And the Lord called Samuel again the third time. And he rose and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." Then Eli perceived that the Lord was calling the boy. Therefore Eli said to Samuel, "Go, lie down, and if he calls you, you shall say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant hears.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And the Lord came and stood, calling as at other times, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant hears." Samuel's answer, "Here I am," reminds us of the words of Abraham as God's called him to his test of faith. I believe these words, even though they're spoken to Eli, are the picture of faith. It's a simple faith of a young boy, of obedience and of trust. Another word stands out to me. It says that the Lord came and stood. That's an interesting verb. How does this change your mental picture of this interaction? Pause here for a moment to talk about that. From verse 11. Then the Lord said to Samuel, "Behold, I am about to do a thing in Israel at which the two ears of everyone who hears it will tingle. On that day I will fulfill against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house from beginning to end. And I declare to him that I am about to punish his house forever for the iniquity that he knew, because his sons were blaspheming God, and he did not restrain them. Therefore I swear to the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be atoned for by sacrifice or offering forever. This prophecy is calling back to the end of chapter 2, to the prophecies there, but it is a difficult judgment. I think there are two levels within which we can see this judgment. The first is a physical judgment upon Eli, for he honored his sons above God. But also, the Hebrew here can be read, Eli's house shall not atone for itself by sacrifice or offering forever. So it may be that they are losing their position of making the sacrificing and offerings, which I think is more reasonable considering that God does not hold the iniquity of the Son against the Father, nor the iniquity of the Father against the Son. But there's another way of reading this that I think is a much bigger picture. The name Eli is actually an ancient form of the verb he ascended. Remember our theme? God exalts the humble and humbles the exalted. Therefore, this can be a prophecy against any who would honor themselves or others above God. Pause to discuss this judgment as you understand it. From verse 15. Samuel lay until morning. Then he opened the doors of the house of the Lord, and Samuel was afraid to tell the vision to Eli. But Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he said, Here I am. And Eli said, What was it that he told you? Do not hide it from me. May God do to you and more also if you hide anything from me of all that he told you. So Samuel told him everything and hid nothing from him. And he said, It is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him. And Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew that Samuel was established as a prophet of the Lord. And the Lord appeared again at Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel at Shiloh by the word of the Lord. There's a couple things that stand out to me in this section. The Lord appeared again at Shiloh, is the words. Shiloh was a place of rest, literally. It's the place where the last 7 tribes received their inheritance. Samuel is established as a prophet from the northernmost tribe to the southernmost city. Excuse me. What are other examples of people that God established as a prophet, and how did he do that? Are there examples in your life of people that you allowed to speak the words of God, and how were they set apart? God's revelation is clearly in view here, but it requires participation of both parties. God revealed himself, and he was perceived. God spoke to Samuel, and Samuel listened. He says, Speak, for your servant hears. What are the ways that God speaks to us today? What are the ways that we open ourselves up to hearing him? What are the ways we close ourselves off from hearing him? Finally, what is the responsibility given to those that hear? In this passage, we see both a good example and a bad in Eli and Samuel. May God bless the reading of his word, and may God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.